get into
Yeah,
it.
this one's really interesting. So I also watched Candace's segment. We can play some of it for sure. But this is the tweet that you sent me, Zach. Candace Owens saying, if Trump wants to survive this election cycle, he must switch his vice presidential candidate to someone who would make him, quote unquote, assassination proof. JD Vance should understand that the situation is now dire and agree. So at first, my take was like, oh, this is, she clearly just thinks that JD Vance is a terrible running mate, that he's only damaged the Trump ticket. And now she's using the safety excuse to try to convince Trump to dump JD Vance in favor of, whoever she would prefer. But if you actually watch this video as we're about to, she actually implies that JD Vance is himself CIA. That's the hilarious part about this, guys. There's no end to the conspiracy theory, right? Everyone is CIA, everyone but Trump, of course.
Right.
Everyone surrounding Trump is CIA, and Trump is so stupid and incompetent that he just keeps picking the people that want him dead to surround him. Trump is so dumb that he literally picked a CIA guy to be his own vice president, unaware of the plot, I guess. So we're going to take a look at this. You guys can, decide for yourself.
All right, everybody, let's jump right into this. The question that's on everybody's mind: what should Donald J. Trump do now? That's what we have to discuss, because there are major implications. He just survived 2 assassination attempts in the span of like 65 days. They want to kill him. They want Donald Trump dead. And I believe that there is a chance that they will be successful in that aim unless Trump gets wise to who exactly he is fighting. My belief, I've thought about this, I thought through this, I believe that Trump needs to switch out his VP immediately. I'm not saying this to be controversial. Please spare me your, unity. I'm so sick of this cry for unity. There is no unity, okay? He survived 2 assassination attempts. We need to get real about what is happening. We need to get real about who it is that wants him dead and why it is that they want him dead. And we need to get real about what is the best solution for that. And we can do that by looking into history. We can look at past assassinations to understand why they may want somebody dead.
So anyway, I just wanted to play that because right from jump, even if you're just a passerby, right? Even if you're just like, oh my God, Donald Trump might be switching out his vice presidential candidate, and you're a vulnerable right winger, and then you're hearing they're trying to assassinate our president. They want Donald Trump dead. And then you're going to have guys like Jimmy go out there and be like, well, it's MSNBC that's radicalizing people. Donald Trump, JD Vance says, we need to start, turning the temperature down. And that starts with the Democrats, or Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And then Tim Walz took the bait like an idiot. And he was like, I do condemn this. I was like, come on, God.
Yeah. No, I it's also dumb because like there's no one but the right wing that loves to talk more about how there's so much crime in this country, and how there's so many crazy people in this country, and how this country's falling apart, and how we need to be more tough on crime, and how we need more cops and stuff. Why would we need more cops? Because there's so much crime, because there's so much crazy people. But then one of those crazy people tries to do something violent to their leader, and all of a sudden they can't accept it. They're like, oh, it has to be a conspiracy. It has to be a deep state CIA psyop. There's no way that one of those crazy people, one of those violent crazy people who I spend my entire day fear-mongering about, there's no way in hell one of those people might have done something crazy. Yeah, no shit. Of course that's going to happen. I'm honestly surprised it doesn't happen more in this country. Assassination attempts on political leaders, given how many guns are in this country, given how much insanity is infected the populace of this country. No, it's frankly not surprising at all. Specifically with Trump, given how much divisive crap he says, given how much he feeds into that sort of conspiratorial logic.
Yeah. Do you know why I think that is? Because you're right. I've thought about this a lot. In the 80s, a lot of people got assassinated, right? In the 70s and 60s, a lot of people got iced. Mass shootings are up like crazy, but we don't see a lot of assassination attempts. And I want you to know if it's because it's too hard, like the logistics of going and shooting some asshole and you get to kill one person, or you could be in the news forever and you impose mass destruction. You just go into like a hotel in Vegas or something. You just go into a Walmart supercenter and let it all fucking flow. Is that because that's easier for crazy people to do that? And if you're a crazy person and you're not just like, an ideologue that also happens to be crazy, right? Somebody who's going to go like Ted Kaczynski, like methodically do the acts of terror, but just like a guy we've seen trying to assassinate Donald Trump, like just a deranged lunatic. Do you think that's why most of the time those guys just go to like Parkland or wherever the fuck and do it that way? Whereas you have to have a real political,
and there's
desire.
There's also just a much higher chance of success if you choose that path, like just doing a mass shooting at a Walmart or at a school or something. Like obviously there's going to be a lot less people to stop you. There's not going to be Secret Service at your local mall, probably just a few bumbling idiot cops. They're not going to stand. They're probably just going to run away in the other direction as soon as they see any threat coming their way. If you're a crazy person and you really want to do something to get your name in the news, it's probably just like the calculus is it's probably going to be a lot easier to pull this off if I don't target the most powerful people. It's like I said, it's also not shocking that there are those out there that try to target the most powerful people. It makes all the sense in the world. Again, just given how many guns are on our streets, given how many crazy people are out there, and given how much insane political content is constantly freaking radicalizing everyone, including from Candace Owens, yours truly. You know what I'm saying? Like who we're watching right now. Of course.
Yeah. Do you think do you think they legitimately want there to be an assassination attempt or political violence to, happen against Kamala Harris? Because it certainly seems like that's what they're inciting, right? Like they're saying they want Donald Trump dead. Donald Trump's life is in jeopardy. Like, do you think it's inciting violence? Like, where do you go with this audience? Because clearly they're throwing gasoline on a situation, and the people they're reaching, are people who are pretty politically across the map, right? We saw the first guy, that guy that actually did graze Donald Trump. They tried to portray him as politically one way, and then as information came out, he was pretty heterodox. Most people don't have a specific political ideology that they're married to, especially if they are a deranged person who struggles to critically think, right? They're going to be susceptible and vulnerable to whomever makes them feel better at that time. I don't know. It's interesting. We can skip ahead in the video. I think this tone that she's striking is really important. I also wanted to point out the fact that she's ripped off the exact way that Tucker Carlson likes to communicate with his audience. And I'm wondering if she did that on purpose. Maybe she studied tape on him. Maybe she thought, hey, he's not on Fox News anymore, but that doesn't mean I can't talk like the guy if I want to. This cadence is what my 65 racist audience is used to. I will reassure them.
Yeah, what's funny though, and you guys are about to see her imply in every way possible that JD Vance is himself CIA, but weirdly she won't just come out and say it. Notice it's really weird. Like she literally implies it in every single possible way, but won't actually say it. So let's take a look.
Do you think she's worried about litigation? Well, we'll talk about it.
Maybe she's worried about litigation, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like these people just accuse everyone they don't like of being CIA.
Oh, 100% they do.
Because of this new Patriot Act loophole, the government can just start spying on us. And that's exactly, by the way, how the Trump campaign got spied on. Okay, it was a two-hop situation where they're looking into Carter Page, and then they decided that they could then look into Trump's communications, and this is what caused an absolute uproar, as it should have. FISA is a disaster. It's not fair that you can just say, I assume this, and therefore allow me to look into and be able to spy on American citizens. If you're wondering how is that even possible, it's because all of your data is being stored. Every communication that you have is being stored, okay?
Thanks, George Bush.
It is being stored, but you are masked. You are a masked person, and they can't see whose data it is unless they receive that warrant. So that FISA Act, those FISA portions, were up for renewal this year. And of course, they always give the act a different name so that Americans think it's something good. It was entitled this year, Reforming Intelligence and Securing America Act. JD Vance decided to abstain from voting on that. I don't know what his excuse was, but I don't like that, right? If you're going to be a hardcore America First person and you have the powers to help us get the government off of our back, you should be, I am hardcore saying that this is unacceptable. Now, who did vote against it, obviously? Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie, you can always rely on him to try to get the government monkey off of our backs. But JD Vance abstained, and I think it's interesting that he abstained, because we know that he is great friends with and has been funded by and has been mentored by Peter Thiel, okay? Now, Peter Thiel is,
Can we talk about something, the elephant in the room?
Rumble.
Yeah, she's broadcasting this on Rumble, which is Peter Thiel's platform, because all he does is give money to right-wing lunatics like this. But now the chickens are going to come home to roost because they're like, big tech, Republican Party donation, tax breaks, JD Vance. It's great.
Yep.
Insider and FBI informant, okay? And that's not shocking given the fact that he works with the government. Again, this is not a shot at Peter Thiel. I'm just giving you guys the facts because
it's not a shot at Peter Thiel, my dad.
What may have guided JD Vance to abstain from this vote. Peter Thiel's a billionaire for a lot of reasons. One of them is Palantir. That's his big company. And his company created AI to crawl through all of our raw data. He's then able to pass that information over to the government when they have their warrants. Okay, so Palantir has thus far made $2.3 billion in DoD contracts. Okay, our Defense Department is paying Palantir, has paid Palantir $2.3 billion in contracts since 2008. So that makes up more than half of Palantir's profits. They're getting their profits directly from our Department of Defense. Okay. So when I see a vote like that or a non-vote like that, when I see him abstaining, my question is why? Do you think that Peter Thiel would be adverse to war? Could you imagine how much data and how many warrants and trying to be able to spy on American citizens during wartime? I mean, it's a lot of money. War is a driver of profits. That is the reality. Okay. And so when I see that, I go, okay, is this an America first person, or do we have a personal relationship that would not make him isolationist? Is this part of the reason?
And I just want to also highlight the parallels in how conservative commentators present information. At this point, all we've really seen on screen, correct me if I'm wrong, Gavin, is that Peter Thiel, gets money from certain avenues, right? And that J.D. Vance voted against a specific bill. That's basically all we have that's concrete. Oh,
that's
yes,
proof he's CIA.
Peter Thiel owns Palantir. Yes, they do take military contracts, right? The Republican Party absolutely loves to hand out to private corporations. That the Republican Party was instrumental in creating a direct pipeline for private business to take over our military industrial complex, right? Okay. And those same folks came up with the idea to spy on everybody, right? They were all Republicans. Okay. Now we're going to just talk about how they build this same straw man. Candace Owens used the exact same tactics that Jimmy Dore did. He just laid out a somewhat plausible situation that if you wanted to believe it, you could. If you were already preconditioned, if all of your sensibilities had already been manicured, if you'd been groomed to be susceptible to conspiracy theories and you wanted to feel like, oh, this is the solution, Donald Trump is under threat from the deep state because he's going to change the world for better. He's going to help me, and the deep state can't stand that. They want to keep me down, right? It's the same strategy. Candace Owens is just a little more sophisticated than Jimmy. She's a little more buttoned up. She's much better looking on camera, and she's much better spoken on camera. I knew you were going to
get that one in there.
Hey, deadass. Jimmy is one of the ugliest sons of bitches I've ever seen in my entire life. The fact that he makes money on camera and not with radio is a fluke of history.
Also, let's go back just a second, and I want to point out this too, because what you said is so correct, Zach, but this is just such glaring hypocrisy.
Is this part of the reason why there wouldn't be much fear about a J.D. Vance presidency, because he necessarily maybe isn't against getting involved in wars or wouldn't be vocally against a war because of his contacts? Now, again, I want to be clear. This is not a shot at J.D. Vance or a shot at Peter Thiel. These are just the facts. We have a right to talk about these.
Don't get mad at me, my audience or boss.
Yeah, and again, it's like, so you're using this personal relationship to prove that J.D. Vance is not America first. By the way, you're right. He's not. He doesn't give a shit. He's not a principled America first conservative. He's not principled in any way. He's totally just a shill for Peter Thiel and for Palantir and for the surveillance state and for everything else evil you could ever imagine. You're 100% right about that. But guess what you're conveniently ignoring? You could say the exact same thing about Donald Trump. You could say the exact same thing about Donald Trump, the person that you're so convinced the deep state is trying to assassinate. What do you think his personal relationship with Miriam Adelson amounts to, Candace Owens? He literally took the maximum donation possible from her, and in return is promising to let Netanyahu do whatever he wants. He's promising to let Israel finish the job. Do you think that's in America's best interest, Candace Owens? No, you don't. We all know that. You talk about it constantly. You mostly talk about it in order to dog whistle your anti-Semitism. But let's be honest, you acknowledge that too. So in the exact same way you're painting this picture about how J.D. Vance is compromised, you could just as easily and in just as serious a tone do the exact same thing for Donald Trump, who, again, you're pretending the establishment is terrified of, even though he's like provably Israel's bitch, 100% a cuck to the Adelsons, who are 100% going to direct him to do whatever Israel wants. Guess what? That's not America first either. That's not America first either. This whole ticket is compromised by your logic, but your audience can only tolerate criticism of JD Vance. They can't handle the truth about Donald J. Trump and his, how compromised he is.
100%, because you've groomed your audience to create a demagogue of this guy. He is a messiah to them. He is the person who's fighting for them. He is the singular figure of which this entire political movement revolves. And without him, you don't have any, you're like the moon without an Earth to orbit. You know what I mean?
Yep, 100%. So let's watch just a little bit more of this, guys, and then we'll move on.
And then there's a couple more things that I want to speak to you about, and I'm going to tell you exactly who it is that I think that Trump should have running with him if he really wants to make himself assassination proof. But first, I want to remind you guys about Nimi skincare, because you guys always asking what I'm using on my skin.
Spoiler alert! It's that same guy she was blabbing about earlier, Thomas Massie or whatever. Thomas Massie is like the Bernie Sanders of the fascist Republicans. Like, they love this guy. I don't know that much about him, to be fair. I don't know if he's really as like corruption proof as they claim he is. But I do have a feeling we should keep our eyes on Thomas Massie. He seems like within the base of the base, that's the guy they want to be like their next, their next front runner, the next standard bearer